do you say, circumstances? 环境 yeah, 对。对他们，我们都是一个环境，对。So we can learn from that a little bit, I think. And so therefore, although of course seeing oneself and seeing others as individuals is a very, very unique thing for us. Yes, this we cannot forget. And more than that, it's only us, human beings, we have this ability. Yeah, cats doesn't have that, dogs doesn't have that, gods doesn't have that. Only we do. Yeah, we have this very unique ability to see ourselves as individuals and see others as individuals. And of course, we can multiply and subtract from there as collective and greater collectives, and so on. Tenren, Sandren, Suren, Soiren, and none of them, none of them have what we have. Yeah? Meaning beings of the sky, beings of the wind, water, earth, and so on. None of them have what we have. Yeah. So this is something we have to cherish, we have to be proud of, yet allow the other perspectives, yeah, like that of the cat. Yeah. Meaning the cat's perspective, meaning it's meaning to see the surrounding or the situation as situation, but not as person, you, me, Obviously, we can argue by saying that cats can behave like human beings and dogs. Yes, if we train them, obviously we can. But on their own, they have that unique quality. So, now, from that perspective, then if you can see the other way, that's seeing everything as circumstances. First of all, seeing everything as circumstances, and probably not as individuals. Probably that's the first step. Then, from there, if we are used to it, we have practiced enough, then maybe we can even begin to play with it a little bit, and see if I try to, well, not to say manipulate, but somehow if I play with it, can I turn it around, And so therefore, Lojong is a very beautiful method where we play with it. Yeah. Because although the term practice, for, is it? No. Practice, how do you say practice? Show. Probably, since I don't know Chinese that well, probably it has far better meaning than practice, the English term. But nevertheless, when I use English, I prefer words like play rather than practice. Because although practice may be a very good word, very appropriate in many ways, play has this, the moment you hear the word play, you naturally feel it is completely opposite from work, yes? And therefore feel at ease, feel relaxed. And if we are experienced enough, educated enough, if we can convince the new practitioners into understanding, for them to understand that it's more of a play rather than work, it will be I think they're much more. You will be able to bring enthusiasm out of them, far better than saying it's practice. Yeah. Yes. So I have been fortunate enough to have my precious teachers who were tough but yet very playful, and so therefore I felt very lucky to be motivated by them in that sense. Yes, yeah. And so I would very much like for us to have that spirit in a way, that it's not really hard work, but we have to at the same time respect why the traditional terms are there, such as practice, 3 eons, purification, dedication, all that. We have to understand also, that such language is there, is so that then, well, it's more of knowing that it's a fine line. It's always a fine line. That if we continue to say play, 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 then we will lose the value of it, which was something that I was trying to convey yesterday and day before about initiations. If the initiation is there in, let's say, 24/7, and like a convenient store, we could just go in, go out, then we would not pay much attention, For that reason, yes, and there are such words like practice. No, I didn't say anything about Xinqi Yi and Xinqi.
24/7. 24/7.
No.
Sorry.
It's the acoustic. Yes. So anyway, from the first question, I think I may have summed up a little bit about it. Yes. So now we have a few other questions formed up.
We have a lots of questions. Yes. Some of the questions are actually from our friends who are actually on the other level because they can't get into the
yes.
hall. Please say hello to them.
Yes, of course.
Yes. So in Longzhong, we have to turn obstacle into the path.
Yes.
So what about health issue? From yesterday, you talk about survivor. Health issue can be an obstacle. And how can we turn that into the path?
Health issue.
Health issue.
Health issue, yes. Yes. Health is one of those things that that gets neglected, I suppose, more often than not. Especially when we're young, we're healthy enough, then, and particularly if our parents have had good genes, let's say, then we feel that it's just the health issues are just stories, nothing more. But we all know when we reach a certain age that it is an issue, yes, and we kind of regret a lot actually that we didn't make good use of our first 20 years. Well, We cannot say first 20 years, but anyway, from the moment we were quite cognitive, from that moment onwards, why didn't we make good use of it and so on, yes. So, then, well, that is there, but beside that, then now, health in general is a very interesting subject, because we can only think of health, or good health in this case, without only if there is the opposite, bad health. Yeah? And so therefore, that's something to think about. Yeah? And then almost every now, from that perspective, then we can see that almost every aspect of life is something like that. Yeah? Meaning health, wealth, recognition, probably it sums up in all those three. Yeah? That we only begin to think about it when we have a lack of it. Yeah? If you constantly have good health or good living conditions and so on, we would not notice it at all, actually. And so therefore it's really difficult to say how to turn the well, in this case, bad health into a path. Yeah? It's actually, one can almost say it's impossible, because of course it's normal for us when we hear things like turning obstacles into the path, and then now very well put that how to turn bad health into the path, and then we can examine that question, how that question is coming into being, probably. Correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe the question is coming from an idea that this method of Lojong, or simply this method, is there a foreign method, something, this method as, seeing this method as a foreign thing, external thing. And so can this foreign thing, entity, intervene and change my circumstances, let's say in this case my health, I mean, that's how often we see medicine, yes. Medicine, we almost see it blindly as something foreign or something exotic and something unknown, and then treating me. So separation, and so just to reflect how this question is coming into being is already, I think, very interesting. So by reflecting on the question itself, maybe we can already find the answer already from there. Meaning that Lojong, when we really practice more or go deeper into the practice, we will find out that it's more about, in the case of health issue, that the idea of a method or a therapy or a medication. It's more to do with our, more to satisfy our emotion that, okay, there is something we can do. It's not hopeless. There is something we can do to give a breather, that there's the idea of a cure. But the actual cure, the actual Lojong, actually takes place by trying to understand that this idea of health crisis or issue is just, it's only coming into being because of the opposite of it. Because of the opposite, meaning suddenly the circumstances are there to realize that there is a thing called good health. Yes, I have to clarify a little bit, yes, towards the end. What I'm trying to say is that obviously, of course, there are cases where there are very obvious diseases and very strong cases of health issues, yes, undeniable ones. But beside that, often it is the case where most of the diseases are sort of coming into being due to what we often say, I mean, this is just my take, something from what there's an English sort of take on, say, white coat syndrome, you know. White coat syndrome is something like, it's the doctors wear a white coat, yes. So therefore, when we go to visit the hospital for health checkup, suddenly we are stressed, and then our blood pressure is naturally high, and then the doctors say you have high blood pressure, and then we begin to worry, and then we start taking medications for it. Anyway, I'm not saying that's the case for all things, of course. There are serious health issues, of course, yes. In the case of Lojong, it sort of covers all those aspects. First and foremost to cover is that so-called white coat syndrome, in a way, yes. If we have taken care of that, then somehow we will be able to, it's difficult to say, in a uniformed way, but it's possible that each individual will be able to somehow accept what kind of physical constitution they have and what they may be going through. Yeah. Maybe you first translate the first half. For example, we can, of course, it's always a case of great sadness and pity when one of our pets go through great health crisis, yes. Probably that's the best we can relate. Otherwise, of course, if we are farmers, then our certain animals within the farm, when they have certain diseases, then we also try to sort of do our best to treat them. So therefore, now from that case, what can we learn is that, of course, I'm not a farmer, so I cannot guarantee everything. I do not have pets anymore, so therefore I cannot say further. But nevertheless, from the animals, what can we see is that since they are different from us in a way, according to their constitution, then they don't have many of the concepts that we have, And one of them would be, of course, white coat syndrome. So since they don't have that, although they are going through a certain health crisis, since they don't have those concepts that we have, the way they go about the very same situation is very different. And that's something to think about. Animals, 动物, 动物, yeah. 动物的想的东西跟我们的想的东西不一样，因为他们没有很多乱七八糟的事情，所以他们的感觉也是一点点比较真的，我们的感觉不是说太真的。So, yes, oh, I shouldn't have said that. Now I lost the plot.
Do you need me to translate that in English?
Anyway, yes, now I remember. So, what happens? I think, yes. I'm not saying I know, but I think. What happens to the animals? Let's say if they're going through something, is the closest thing we can get to is that of our sensation of a heart attack. That may be a very provocative subject, yes. But nevertheless, I think it's similar. Before a heart attack takes place, years before, months before, and so on, what really takes place is great sense of anxiety. You feel hurried. You feel like you cannot sit still, and so on, yes. And then the result is what we say, heart attack. Yeah. But we cannot sort of really predict what is really happening and whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, because we feel maybe we are anxious about something good, or maybe we are fearful about something bad, but we cannot justify which is the case. But we do sense this restlessness, you know. Similarly, that's something that the animals are going through when they are experiencing certain health issues, yes. So in that sense, what I'm trying to say is that there is a certain experience, of course, strong experience of something in the case of the animals, but since they have no habit during that lifetime, yes, during this particular lifetime as an animal, since they have no usage for sophisticated languages, concepts, and so on, their sense of me is very simple. And since that is the case, then my pain, my leg hurts or my heart hurts or something, it's very, very limited. And so therefore all they can feel is something is happening. That's all they can feel. And even if there's an apparent pain, they don't have a concept to call that or recognize that as pain. All they can feel is something very strong is happening. That's all they have. And they cannot really say this is wrong or this is not good. None of that. All they know is something is happening, like an earthquake. You know? So now in our case, in terms of, now in the context of Lojong, is something like, first is sort of deconstruction, then first step is sort of deconstruction, then the other is construction, almost. And in this case, the only closest thing that I can think of it is that of baking bread. What is baking bread? Is, on one hand, is the deconstruction of grains, you know. You deconstruct its, the exterior parts of it, such as, and I don't know the exact terms, and then turn them into bran, flour, through the process of milling. And I mean, even that process, if you go backwards, there are so many other processes, where actually it needed heat or warmth, moisture in the form of water, time, and all sorts of things. So basically, into making a loaf of bread, you need to deconstruct the whole grain. Let's say, if you just think in one aspect. And then baking an actual bread is basically, it's like saying, making, turning all the deconstructed components, putting it back into another grain in the shape of something else. So, in the case of Lojong, then the way we deconstruct it is, like I said before, we kind of deconstruct this whole idea of just simply bad health, sickness, which we have turned it into one particular thing. Yes, we slowly sort of deconstruct that into to a point where, basically, to summarize it, to a point where we can just experience that something is happening. But beyond that, to say we haven't labeled anything as sickness or something good or bad. Yeah. Then from there, if you have come to that ground or to that level, then we actually have the freedom to construct it once again. But in this case, not in the same way as simply as pain, but as something else. Without, of course, in this case, panicking, fearing, blaming oneself or others or anything else. One simply tries to see that, first of all, we have this thing called body, a physical constitution, and formed or manifesting in a very unique way, that no matter how similar we all are, that we all have a uniqueness, even if we are twins, Yes, without having to be computerized, one could say that just because you and I are very similar and so close, the so-called disease, so the so-called pain, the health issue will not get jumbled up, mistaken, and suddenly the disease I'm supposed to have, you will have it, It doesn't get jumbled up. And in fact, if I have the conditions for it, I will experience it, and no one else will experience it. And so, therefore, how to say, one can begin to sort of, at least understand that that somehow there is a flawless aspect to this thing called physical condition, that we can at least trust it, actually. Many things that happens, of course, occurs in one's life, often are difficult to trust. Well, simply it's because it's conceptualized, Whereas in this case, the physical condition is something that is very flawless. Lojong, it's through very, very simple observation, actually. Very simple observation that begins to help us develop more and more trust. It's just not just me, but we cannot, of course, keeping up with the very same question, we cannot pretend, of course, to say, oh, there's a miracle, based on this particular story and so on, that I can take your pain, I can take someone else's struggle and so on. In reality, of course, that's never the case, yes. What one particular individual goes through is one's own, and that cannot be manipulated in any way. And so the idea, of course, of exchanging one's place with the other, one could say it's a bit of a fantasy, of course, but whether it's fantasy or not, it doesn't matter. It's a very unique thing that we can only do, as I said earlier, from this condition of being human beings. And likewise, we cannot transform or quicken a certain process or slow down a certain process also, because everything is flawless, actually. And so Lord Jung, it sounds like transforming something, turning something. And is it correct to say that? Yes. But is it actually the case? It's difficult to say. It's a method, it's a conveyance to help us slow down at first from our anxiety. And once we have calmed down from our anxiety, then we can begin to focus on various insights. And in this case, for example, that of the nature of health. Yeah. And the nature of health, it's very strange to say, is fight or illness, It's sort of the foundation of it is that. The foundation of, it's strange to say it, but it's clumsy to say it, but the foundation of a good health is bad health. It's funny, but if you really take some time to look at it, it is in a way that way. Yeah. As long as we have our white blood cells in good number and fighting against anything, constantly, without break, without weekends, 24/7, then we have good health, The moment they begin to relax, we have bad health. Or the moment they take holiday, yeah. And so, and therefore it is really, when you really think in that way, then when we ask ourselves or we ask someone else for good health, we don't know exactly what to wish for. Either it's supposed, or maybe it is the case, we don't know for sure, but it's possible to think that each of the white blood cells have consciousness. Because the feeling of me, my body, my constitution is similar to naming it as a country or a nation, But what constitutes a nation is all kinds of components, yes? So it's something like that. And so therefore now in the case of transforming, can we really transform anything? Is there a purpose for it? Is there benefit for it? When we go into those directions, we have simply no answer for it, actually. But to arrive to the point where it's almost to arrive to that point where we have no answer. Hopefully we will be able to go through the whole cycle of actually recognizing many things that we would have not noticed if this question was not asked, in a way. So now we still have to find a way to legitimize the transformation, yes, or the turning the circumstance. And so in this case, one of the, of course, the main practice of Bodhisattva is that of turning everything, anything, into positive circumstances, or turning it into path. So that is none other than trying to now use the very same feeling of feeling that we had so far of this is me, but in this case probably more wholesomely. Yeah. So because one of the common advices that Shakyamuni Buddha gave was to his fellow practitioner was constantly to say, own your karma, take ownership of your own karma. Sometimes maybe we can understand that very clear, sometimes such a simple sentence can become very cryptic. We don't know, yes. But if I try to translate that, I think in this context of health, it's basically trying to say, try to be more aware of, I don't know, every physical aspect of yourself. Yeah. For the first time, don't just sort of roughly and blindly say that, yes, that's me. But in this case, in which way, meaning even own up, just like, I don't know, a premier of a nation would, to own up every citizen as mine, in the same way to own up every white blood cells as mine, something like that. I mean, of course, that's just an example, but every aspect of your body, bones, blood, flesh, skin, things that we have actually never really thought of until we've gone to the hospital or for some health reasons or something. And that if we can really feel that I truly sort of am a part of this, I really own this in every aspect, then something can happen, I think, yes. Meaning that path, of course, it's a very helpful concept, but at the end of the day, it's sort of trying to become more aware of what we think we are. And the more we are aware of it, the end result is something that we do not need to explain, actually. I mean, I'm saying all this, which took up a lot of time, actually, is instead of saying just we can turn the physical pain or illness as one's own karma, and therefore we can purify eons and eons of bad karma and so on, which is something we have heard over and over again to most of us for a long time, yes. But at the same time, I feel that what that means, I think, it's not that I'm trying to say something new. It's that what that means is that actually try to be more aware of something that has been neglected for a long, long time. Yes. We all think we know what a finger is, but actually we really don't know. Or maybe only a doctor can define what a finger is. But we ourselves, as the actual owner of your own finger, we don't know. Yes. So now, actually, I just realized that I crossed the time. Yes. So I said, since tomorrow is a weekday, I'm sure many of you would have to, go back to your, to fulfill your responsibilities, daily schedules, and so on. So therefore, I very much understand for those of you who need to now depart to get some rest. But like I mentioned before, since the setting is here at KKBC, we have no time limit. So
Yes. Actually, there's one. I have a stack of questions. So if I don't get on to your question, please don't. Please kill me later. It's not His Holiness' fault. But I think there's a very interesting question that I have on hand.
Okay.
Maybe you can help. What is the Holiness advice for in terms of Longjong practice for someone who has already lost his will of living?
Oh yes. Yes. Do we need to translate that question?
Okay.
None of us want to work, of course. But of course, the meaning I think I can relate. When one has lost the will to basically continue any further, yes. And probably in this case, it's an extreme case, yes. But because otherwise, every now and then, every one of us go through that stage of not feeling any reason or purpose to continue. And so therefore, I suppose the question is somewhere along the line of yes and no, will or can Lojong do something about it? Maybe?
Yes.
Yeah? Yes. So before I continue my answer, I wanted to still finish what I was saying earlier. So therefore, since we are here at KKBC, where time is not the issue, I wanted to ask all of you and also convey to all of you, for those of you who wish to retire because of tomorrow's early schedule, please feel free to return to your home. And for those of you who wish to remain, I have another question to the organizers, whether we can still have some time to continue further. Yes.
I haven't seen anybody starting to move yet, so.
Yes. No, but realistically, of course.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Realistically, if you.
Because even the organizers have to also. So therefore, I just wanted to make the most of this occasion, and I also understand that we have another occasion about another talking session, and so therefore we can continue there also, if you like. I don't know where we are, where the setting is for that. Yes.
I actually have 25 questions. so if you were to continue, it will be overnight. So I think let's deal with this
Yes.
one. I
Yes.
think this one is
Yes.
is to me, because the person who wrote this question somehow wrote it twice.
I see. So then concerning the losing the will to continue to work, yes. Well, I don't know. It sort of depends on, are we dependent on expectations? From external expectations, yes, from friends, family, what we call society. It depends on that, I think, because as for oneself, what's wrong with it, you know? If he don't have the will to continue or to work anymore, yeah. Will that cause, I don't know, some disaster or something? Most likely not, yeah. As part of a Bodhisattva's practice, it is both nice and beneficial to be当菩萨的意思就是你快不快乐，就是这样子，很简单。对你的这个工作还是什么什么，就是对我的还是他的还是我们的，没有特别想的，好像动物还是小孩子一样，小孩子他们没有说真正的，那个身体是我的，那个是他的，没有太多想的，不是说是他们特别想这个是都一样，不是这样子，就是都没有特别想，可是感觉是一样，对，我的中文has reached its limit now. Yes.
His Holiness, the question actually is about the person losing his will
to live. Yes.
And therefore non-Zhong practice as an obstacle curling cause. And how can non-Zhong then prevent the person from committing suicide?
Yeah, okay. Well, once again, it depends on the person, of course. I think if this person has either a notion or has some is compatible or is comfortable with the idea of rebirth or not. I mean, it's not saying whether one is comfortable or not comfortable, and one will be judged, of course, but first of all, it highly depends on that. Yeah. Because if one has some concept about a rebirth, then accordingly, the answer differs. If one doesn't, accordingly also. Because if one could say, I don't know, the term believe or feels comfortable about another rebirth, accordingly one can, I don't know, plan. Accordingly one can plan. If one doesn't believe in that, again one can, I don't know, manage, accordingly. And so, if one believes that there is a rebirth, then accordingly one can say, next time, I will do things next time. Very simple. Without thinking too much about, whether I will be in a lower realm or higher realm, doesn't matter. Next time, yeah. Well, if it is, if one is not comfortable about rebirth, then in a way it's sort of a freedom. Yeah. It's sort of no responsibility in a way, because I think the very feeling of the real reason why anyone can arrives at this point where one feels that there is no point to continue any further is probably a result from having felt too much, I don't know, mental and physical pressure. Because Buddha has never, let's say, concretely written on stone by saying that there is or there is no rebirth. The only thing he said was, it's all up to the individual in terms of how comfortable they feel about it. and accordingly work with it.
释迦牟尼佛没有硬性规定说一定要相信呢有来生，或者是不相信有来生，要看那个个人的情况，来去面对，去掌握那个情况。
Yeah, so the answer in this case, is there a reason still to practice Lojong even at this sort of critical time? Yes, there is. And it will help you in a way that it's not going to sort of, how to say, burden you further with another additional things. No. In fact, it will help you further relieve all the stress, yes? All kinds of notions about you having to live, you having to survive, you having to, I mean, there could be lots of good reasons for you to still survive, you know. And in this case, no. Lojong will actually help you to say, it doesn't matter. Yeah. 也没有关系, that's probably yes. That basically, if you want to go, you can go, you know. And just because you go, the world is not going to end. Someone else will again sort of maybe take up the place. So therefore, there's nothing to worry about. Something like that. Anyway, so I think that's about it. Or do we have time for one more, or how is it?
Since Lojong is the path of Bodhisattva, is it a must to take the Bodhisattva vows? I find it very stressful dealing with the Bodhisattva vows said by this person, not me.
I think I did say in the beginning this evening that the whole Lojong practice is based around the development of bodhicitta or bodhishing, and so obviously we cannot separate that, you know. But the development of bodhishing or bodhicitta is not as heavy or complicated as we think. Yes. For example, becoming a doctor may be a cue, you know, an access, you know. Because that's why I've said something about white blood cell, you know. To become a bodhisattva, it's no, how do I put it? Knowing about white blood cells is one of the most important parts of becoming a bodhisattva.
Sorry,
Knowing about the white blood cells or red blood cells or all kinds of health related issues is one of the most important part of becoming a bodhisattva. Because the saying, or there's a, if I quote one particular line, is that it says, I think it's from the Bodhicaya Avatara, that there's nothing that a bodhisattva would not learn, you know. That to become a bodhisattva means you have to be knowledgeable about almost anything. And so in here, the Lojong means that you train your attitude, you enhance your attitude, or you complement your attitude in such a way that you begin to, well, one, you begin with something that you really like to do. Yeah. And then from there, it will motivate you to learn everything. And so therefore, to become a bodhisattva is actually not complicated, not difficult, because it invites you to begin, it invites you to become a bodhisattva by beginning with something you like. you know. Of course, not necessarily with a profession to harm others or something, you know, to become an assassin or something like that. But there are countless and countless of professions, you know, hobbies, whatnot, which is both interesting for oneself, beneficial for society, and so on. So one can just begin from any of those. So therefore, it's not that difficult, one. And the other is that now, then this Lojong practice is both fundamental and complementary in a way that while you do something or go about the thing that you love to do, you don't get distracted, of course. You know, you don't suddenly lose your goal. That you realize that my aim is, of course, to benefit others, but not as a mission, not as an order, not as a burden, of course. But it so happens that the thing that I want to do is, one could say, coinciding with helping others. It's a great bonus, you know. And so therefore then there is no pressure, there is no sense of weight at all. Yes, day after day after life after life after, there is no burden at all, because it's both something I like to do and it's helping others, or the other way around, I'm helping others and helping others is something that I like to do. And so therefore there is no differentiation at all. I think that's it for this evening, I think, because now most of you would need to retire. On the other hand, I don't need to retire, actually. So actually I could just go on till 3, 4 a.m., you know. But nevertheless, I understand that even the organizers also need to rest, so therefore, but just keep in mind in the future, if you have time, I have time, okay? At the moment, yes. Maybe one day there will be a time where I don't have time, but I have time. So I would like to wish all of you a very good evening, and maybe we can continue some of the questions in the next session. I look very much forward to it. And so yes, actually we hardly covered anything about Lojong today, actually, I realized. But it's a great opening because it allows us to explore many areas, and then it provokes us to delve into all kinds of aspects of life that we thought initially was not part of Buddhism, you know. Whereas Buddhism is such an opening, such a ground, such a completion that actually it talks about every aspect of our life, you know, actually. So therefore, I'm glad to have had a little opportunity with all of you. I look forward to you for the coming occasions. I wish you a very good evening. Sunam deyen tamje zebani tomne nyebe danam banje ne jega nanje balam chubai sebe solen rowa sho.